Greetings and welcome to my channel. This is Sorcerer Tal. You can also find me on Facebook in the Sorcerers Guild. Today on Experimental Magic, we are coming back to the Yeast Servitor minions, which I have started quite a while ago. If you go back to my videos, I'll leave a link to that here for the first time around. And while that was very successful, I feel that it could be done better. In that first one, I just kind of made a general Yeast Servitor minion that was essentially helping with the hive mind of my fuller altar servitor, but also had some ideas of providing life force and life energy. I used it to make Herald of the Rocks, one of the Triop servitors that we created, to activate him. It was very useful in that. I also used it for my own health purposes and to activate or strengthen several ghost phenomena, which actually just adding the yeast to them gave that extra life force to it and allowed it to become a little bit stronger. I also used it in a few cases for a little more nefarious purposes that I'm not going to get into, but they worked quite well. And yes, it was very successful, but multi-purpose and didn't have as much power for some of the things I actually wanted it to do, which was more of the idea of a health-based thing. It did help with the probiotics in my gut and things like that, but because we're working with fermented yeast, that could have just been the yeast itself. My dog Cootie, while she was around, she actually was starting to go blind from a, oh my gosh, I forgot what it's called all of a sudden. But she had a thing that causes like a darkening of her eyes. And I was unable to find anything that really worked. The normal hormones that they give and the little drops that they give for it didn't work. The only thing that worked was for a while I was in a very desperate moment, I actually started using the yeast minions to try and see if they could clear the gunk out of her eyes. And it worked for a very small period, and it was able to give her a little bit more sight. So these were actually very successful. I'm not suggesting you put them in anybody's eyeballs. Just to be clear, that was a moment of desperation. Don't go sticking fermented juice in people's eyeballs because Sorcerer Tal told you to. Okay, don't do that. But it did work in that case. Okay, so like I said, this time we're going to kick it up a notch. Now that we know it worked, it was very successful, but I'm going to aim it more directly at what I want. So this time, we're aiming directly at youth and revitalizing myself and helping to, well, still doing the probiotics in my guts and all that stuff, but we're using blueberries because they are an anti-aging berry. And they are one of the most healthy berries there is because of all the resveratrol and antioxidants in there. They're supposed to help with digestive issues already before they get fermented. And primarily, there's that aging bit. Because what we're trying to do here is essentially create immortality servitors that will begin bringing me into a more permanent state of being and helping to combine some of the more magical elements of my body and DNA so that they can be more activated. So, with that in mind, what we're going to do here then is juice the blueberries in this juicer here and create a base for the Yeast Servitor minions. But before we start that, we want to get the minions started. So, put the berries back over here for just a moment before we get into that. We have to listen to all the grind. And we will talk about my little friends here. This is actually just regular bread yeast, not the type that would usually be used for making wine. But they work last time. This is the same brand of yeast that I used last time even. So we're just going to go ahead and go with that. I didn't actually do that on purpose. It's just the Fleischmann's yeast is very popular and they happen to have the exact same brand. So here we are. Now we have the warm sugar water. And that's what the yeast wants to activate. This is giving it its first gift, its first offering, so that it will know its rewards for helping with the idea of what it's being set forward to do and how it can create harmony within its community inside the jar. by following the program and working with the servitor. Essentially, like I said in the other videos, the servitor that is connecting all the hive minds is, in a way, giving the yeast, well, a being to follow. A god of the jar is a servitor that is going to connect with the hive mind of all the yeast and help them stay on track and keep them healthy, and guiding into the right idea of how I want them to evolve and the intent behind that. So, with that in mind, I have the sugar water in one of the silver chalices, which is also a thing that I often use for healing. And we're just going to go ahead and add these in, now that we've talked about what it is that they need to do. And because it's a silver chalice, and I'm not very sure I can make the servitor minion sigil stay on there, I'm visualizing it as I put it in, and imagining the sigil over top of the water, and imagining the sigil going into the water as I pour in the yeast. We're going to go ahead and get quite a bit in there. It might make the first bit of this taste a bit yeasty, but over time I'm actually going to be adding more juice to the mixture, or sugar water, depending on what's available at the time, and continue feeding the yeast so that they are able to survive and thrive within the jar while I consume those from the bottom that are ready. Okay, so like I said, we're just going to go ahead and add all of that, and we'll mix that in here, and that's going to need about 5 minutes to do its thing, because it needs to wake up. And we'll know it's ready because it should start getting frosty and frothy up at the top. Okay, so now the fun part, I suppose. We're going to grind a bunch of berries. Put those in my chair here, I guess. That seems like that should work. Take the top off. Where will I sit that? Inside the berry jar. Okay. And this is actually the first time I've used this juicer, so we'll see how this goes. Well, I tried a little handful earlier just to make sure it works. But hopefully this isn't a blooper reel. We'll see how this goes. Alright, this goes here. This comes off, over into the blueberry jug. This comes here. Oh, the pulse is on the other side, that figures. Wow, that was fast. That was all of those berries that quick. Okay, we're going to load it a lot fuller this time once it stops dripping for a second. Okay, well, it really grinds those blueberries quick. We're going to go and load it right up this time. So, as I was saying before, the blueberries have a lot of antioxidants, and supposedly fermenting them can even boost that ability. So we're just going to go ahead and load all these up. Give it a full load this time because it just went quick last time. I have a feeling it can take the whole thing about as fast as I can push it down. Okay. Yes, the yeast is definitely working well, but we got to move some of this stuff over because I'm getting a little cramped here. There we go. I'm standing on the wrong side of the thing. Am I still in the shot? I have a camera person today. Yeah, this thing can eat berries as fast as you can feed them. Cool. Well, then we won't have to listen to a whole lot of grindy and a little more talky, which I suppose is what you're here for. So, like I said, these yeast in the past, when I made this, the time that I did it on the video was actually the second time. The first time I did it was with yeast that I gathered from grape leaves. So if you don't want to use store-bought yeast, there are other options. What I did that time to get the yeast started, even though I was using apples, they were from the stores. They had the yeast washed off of them, because you can just crush apples and start with that. They've got it picked on the outside. But I didn't have that because they were apples from the store and they've been all that stuff cleaned off. So what I did was I used grape leaves. You take some grape leaves, put them in sugar water for a while, and it'll start to bubble after a few days. There you go, you've got activated yeast, and you can start with that. And from that, you can make the sugar, you can make the, you can ferment anything that you want, really. Anything that has sugars in it, you do want to be careful. Maybe Google what is and what isn't safe, because some things you can't be fermented and they have extra properties. But most things can be fermented. Anyways, we're going to try this again. I don't know why I'm confused this time. How did I do it last time? Quite effective. But we're definitely going to have a bit of a mess to clean up after the episode. That is for sure. They say this makes a very zesty, very flavorful wine. And I guess we'll find out in time. It took a long time to make that rhyme just there. I feel my brain pausing like there was something. And then it wasn't even all that exciting. So, you know. Not blooper reel worthy, I guess. Find all the random blueberries they dropped afterwards even. Suppose Krell's getting lots of blueberries as well. No way I'm going to find them all. Oh boy, looks like there's going to end up being quite a bit of sugar water in this. So we're getting there. And that's another thing you'll want to remember to do a ratio on. Now, the sugar water, that's actually, most of the things I read about making blueberry wine suggested that I was going to want some, to put sugar water with it, but that's one thing that you'll want to remember to do is, well, find out how much juice is coming out of the thing you're juicing. Because it looks like I'm not getting quite as much as I had originally hoped. Oh. No, don't do that yet. Okay, where'd I put it? Oh, silly bugger. There's one for the blooper reel. There you go, there's a blooper reel right there maybe. Okay, take this out, silly guy. Watch out for ones like that. Now another thing that's important when you're making this sort of thing is to make sure that once you've got it together, it remains closed, because you don't want any other bacteria getting in there. But you also need to have some way for the methane to escape. Because as the yeast eats up the sugar, well, like a lot of things, when they eat, they build up a little methane, and well, your little yeast servitors are going to fart. And the farts need to be released over time. That's why when you see people, when we make wine and stuff, you have that balloon on top that inflates. That's all the yeast farts. Little servitors are going to do the same thing. Just because they have another intent doesn't mean they're not going to need to fart. So you need to have some way to let that air off. Now, the fun part about that is that if you cap it off while it's still fermenting, if you decide that you want to actually extract some and make, cap it off, because you do have to do that over time. As you add the sugar and water, over time it starts getting more and more alcoholic, and you need to just strain it off or it starts getting too strong for what you're doing. Now, when that happens, if you bottle it off and add just a little bit more sugar before you rack it off and seal it down tight, you'll have to put the cork, force it in there somehow because it's going to build up pressure. But if you seal the cork, put that little bit of sugar in, seal the cork, when you open it, you have carbonated blueberry wine. And that's usually how I like to do it. I like to have it a little bubbly. Well, I haven't done it with the blueberries yet, but with the apple cider, I like to have my apple cider bubbly. So, you cork it off early. Now, another thing about that, though, is do be careful, because them corks can pop. And it's happened more than once. One time it happened on my shelf, made a big mess everywhere. Another time, made everyone drink the bottle, because I brought it to a party, and I sat it on the table, the bottle, and while I was out smoking a cigarette, apparently the cork just popped right out, and everyone decided that meant they should drink it. So when I came in for my cigarette, everybody was sitting around drinking my wine, which is good wine, so good way to start a party. Anyways, looks like I've actually only got a little more to go here. Looks like I will be adding quite a significant amount of sugar water at some point. Because 10 pounds of blueberry, or 8 pounds of blueberries did not go as far as I thought it was going to. Again, when you do your fruit, you do want to do the math on it, but sugar water works. A lot of your blueberry juices are half sugar water anyways, and the sugar will get fermented out. And I will actually be adding other fruit over time. I just felt it was important to start with the blueberries so we can really get that intent into the spell of the servitor minions. Of course, it also smells incredible. If you like to smell blueberries, I guess. I'm getting to the point I can just do this, I think. Oh, maybe not. Never mind. I almost said I'm disappointed there's not a blooper reel yet, but probably shouldn't jinx myself like that. Ask the law of irony to do something. Because I really don't actually want that to happen. Okay, almost there. That's about all it's going to fit. One more time after this. And that's that. Okay, one more time. Okay. blueberries. In they go. Okay, so the part that's not going to be on camera then is me adding the sugar water, which if you watched the last video, I should have known I have to do because I added sugar water the first time as well. But you know, that's why I should write down more. That's why they say to have books of shadows. Write all this stuff down so you know what you're doing the next time. I just watched the video though. You think I'd get it? Either way, off we go to the next part. Where did I put the thing I need for the next part? There it is. Because it's blue, I wanted to use a blue sigil, and this is just an oil pastel. These are really good. This is a really good tool for marking sigils on a on glass, because it'll mark on there, but it'll also come right off later. You can often see it on my aquariums. But see, it will mark, usually. Doesn't leave a strong mark, but it does leave something on there that you can wash off later. And now, did exactly like we were hoping. It's all foamy. See that? Gotta get it from closer or something. Okay. So, now, that goes right in here like that. And then we're going to get the lid on. If I can remember where I put the lid. Okay. So, there we go. Like I said, I'm going to add some sugar water to that later, but we're going to go ahead and do that off camera because I was hoping it wouldn't happen. Advice for if you decide to do this on your own. More blueberries, or have the sugar water ready when you start. And, well, whatever fruit you use, like I say, you can use a fruit to add an intent to it. For those into chaos magic, I am kind of curious about what would happen if we did bananas. Or perhaps half-peeled oranges. But anyways, that'll be for a future experiment. Right now we're going with blueberries and longevity and trying to make the ambrosia, fruit of immortality. Anyways, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please take the opportunity to do so now. And if you like the idea of blueberry wine making you live a very long time, smash that like button. Anyways, that's going to be it for this episode. Bright blessings and an interesting fate. This has been Sorcerer Tal.